Hello everyone, it's Marnie. So, like it states, this is going to be a catch-up from the last video to now on all the books that I have read. It might be in one part, it might be in two, depending on how long it takes me to get through. There is a total of, I think, 14 to 16 books. Mostly because I just kept reading, even though I didn't have time to record. So I'll be going through, in this first one, if I break it into two parts, I will be doing 8 in this first one and 7 in the next one. If not, then it'll just be in this one. So the first book I'll be talking about is Beast, A Tale of Love and Revenge by Lisa Jensen, which I'm pretty sure I had this as my to be read in the last video. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I had this as my to be read. So I gave this 3 stars, like overall the story. I also gave the cover 3 stars because it is a rather charming and nice cover, and it's like fairly shiny when it doesn't have the plastic from the library on it. So I actually enjoyed this book. It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but it has twists and turns in it that aren't in the original Beauty and the Beast. My favourite character is Beast in this, which probably isn't overly that surprising. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would find him to be the favourite character the majority of the time. But he has a different twist on this. Like, it's hard to say without giving away the book, and I highly suggest you read it because it does have a really huge, shocking part in this book, which never saw coming. But Beast is still my favourite character because he's charming, he's lovely, and he's basically a perfect gentleman, even though he's meant to be a beast. So my rating for the book, which is generally like, you know, your G up to your R and all that sort of stuff, is PG, because there wasn't a lot of things in this that made it anything over a PG sort of rating. It is a very PG book. There's not a lot of major issues in it or mature content. Overall, I was surprised with how things progressed in this and all the shocking twists and how the author had changed this story and made it her own and made it something special. I would highly read more books from this author just to see if she continues that surprise and unpredictability in all of her stories. And I'd recommend this to anyone who does love a retelling. It is a lovely retelling and it does throw in its own thing, but is a perfect retelling of Beauty and the Beast, along with the shocking twists and turns of it. And if you wonder why I keep looking over, I've actually got notes on the back of my book so that I don't get too off track and tongue-tied, because I've realised I do that a lot. So yeah, this book was a shock to me because a lot of retellings, I do like them, but they don't have their own originality in it, and this one has a lot of originality and a lot of aspects in it that I highly suggest people reading, and it was a really, really, really good book. Alright, so the next one is another one that I'm pretty sure I was currently reading at the time when I did my last video, which was Uprooted. Now, I only gave this book 2 stars, has the story, and I gave it 2 for the cover. Nope, sorry, I gave the cover 4 stars. My notes say different. So I gave the cover 4 stars. I was wondering why I said 2. I actually really did enjoy the cover. The cover was the reason why I wanted to read this book outside of someone recommending it to me. So my favourite character in this book is Cassia, which is the main character's best friend. This book is a retelling of, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember which one. It's another retelling of a fairy tale, but I'm trying to remember which one now. My notes have not got that on here. I can't remember, but it is a retelling, or something similar to a retelling. But yeah, as you can tell, I didn't overly, from giving it 2 stars, didn't overly enjoy this book. Like, it started out with a lot of promise and like I thought it would be better, but then it kind of did drop off a lot. I did give it a rating of M, so it is for a mature audience. There is a fair bit in this which does need more of a mature mindset to get through. overall, yes, I was disappointed in this book. It did not go the way I thought it was going to go, and it made me very upset, and it really dropped off. A lot of things in it dropped off, and I struggled to get through it, but I did. I would recommend this book to early teens though, because it'd probably be more what they're interested in over me and my old age and what it was for me. So, obviously I don't have a lot to say about this one because I didn't overly enjoy the book. It would be a good book for people starting out into something like a fantasy world for teens and that, but like I said, I think it's more my old age. I didn't find it overly enjoyable. So the next book I have is The Darkest Minds by Alexander Bracken. I gave this book 4 stars for the story and a 3.5 for the cover. The cover was one of the reasons why I put off reading this book for so long. Like, it's been sitting at the edge of my I want to read or I don't want to read list for a very long time because I was worried about it. I loved the idea of the book, which was like about gifted kids and like a reform camp or something like that for them. I did love the general idea about this book, but there was just so much, I don't know, it wasn't controversy because I didn't really pay attention to what other people said about it. It was just, I was on the border of whether it might be something interesting for me or it might not be. I was also worried that it was just going to follow the line of a lot of other books that had that, and I didn't like them. So my favourite character is Chubbs, who's an arrogant, mean person, but he has his reasons for it. I won't go into it because I give way too much. But he has a gorgeous, brilliant heart, and once you find out everything about him, he is a lovely character. I gave it a rating of M because there is a fair amount in this book that's mature content. I would say 14 though would be the lowest age to start reading it at, but not much lower than that. Overall, this book left me wanting more. I actually want to try and get the next lot because it's a part 1 in a series and see where it goes and how it leads and how the characters mature and progress through things. I'd recommend this to people who like dystopian books and adventure books because it is very adventurous with breaking out of the reform camp and all the stuff that the characters have had to go through and how they meet and all that. And it's set in a dystopian time set. Right, so the next book is the last book of a series that I have been reading and enjoying, which is very shocking to some people I know once they found out that I was actually enjoying these books, which is Wildfire by Ilona Andrews. So it's 2 authors, not 1, to specify when people wonder why I put up I love them when it only has the 1 name. So I gave this book 4 stars and a 3-star for the cover. I do enjoy the cover and all that, and they all basically set along the same lines of these couple. But I love this series, and I love the characters in it. They were awesome. So next part of my thing is my favourite character. My favourite character was Mad Rogan. There's a lot of things I'd like to say about him, but it'd give away a lot of things about him in the books and the series. I highly suggest people picking up this series and reading it. It's a hidden legacy novel. Sorry, my speech is coming out odd again. It is a really, really lovely series, and it has so many points and times when you get bubbly feelings and you get grumpy feelings towards some of the characters, and it just gives so much and allows you to feel so much while reading it. So it's definitely a MA 15 plus sort of book. It is mature content. There is a lot of mature content in this book, being it's like romance, paranormal, magic sort of book, but it still focuses on romance, adventure area. I wanted more until I found out that this was apparently the last book in the series, and then I was sad because I want more. I want more from these characters. I want to see where they go, how they go, everything after this book, and there's now no more. So I would recommend this book to a large variety of people because there is just that much in it. It's not just set towards one aspect. but at the same time, no one under 15 because of what's in the book. So the next book I have is another one that I had suggested to me. It was put in as a list of books recommended and I had to pick one of the books for that month, but I decided that after doing the one that I'd picked, I'd go through and read the others because they were interesting too, which is Nyxia. Now, Nyxia is like a sci-fi book. It has... You could say it's dystopian too, but you don't get a lot about Earth. It's more space, as you can tell from the cover. I gave the story 3 stars because there was a lot of aspects that I fell off and felt really bored about. The cover's 5 because I love the cover. I love space and the way it's nice and colourful and all that. I generally just love space and stars and moons and planets and stuff. But my favourite character in this book that kept me ploughing through it and just wanting to read more, even though he wasn't the main character, was Bilal, because he was funny and nice and like he just brought humour towards everything that was just dark and dreary and whingy sort of thing. So I did have a lot of shocking moments in this and how things towards the end progressed. It wasn't what I thought would happen or how I thought it might follow through, but yeah. So overall it was a shocking book for me at the end. Well, at the end of it, and I'm pretty sure it's a number 1 in a book series too, so I will be moving on to the next one. Sorry, my alarm's going off. I will be moving on to the next book and seeing how it does progress. So, and I also want to have a look into the author and see what other books the author's written and how I would feel about those, which is something I missed with the other books, but I miss things. I don't always check my notes. Pardon, sorry. Right, so the rating on this one is M also. There's not so much adult content, but there is a lot of content in it that would need a more mature mindset to get through. And I would recommend it to people who love sci-fi and, you know, use space travel and all of that sort of stuff. But it was a really lovely book to read. Like, once I got to the shocking parts, it made up for all the dragging and boring and hard parts to get through. And like I said, Bilal kind of made it easier to get through it because of his jokes and the way he acted and the way he communicated with all the others, because there's a lot of characters in this book, which makes it really, really hard to fall in love with just one, but he would just drag you in and you'd fall in love with him. Right, so the next one I'm pretty sure was one that I did have on my last video that I was going to read too, and I didn't end up getting to read it until after I'd read all those other books because, well, I kind of put it off, which is Gone Girl. So I gave this book 3 stars for the story and I gave it 2 for the cover because the cover's generally plain. I think the main interest that made me actually pick this book up was the story and the fact that it was a story put into a movie, and the trailer of the movie looked alright, so I wanted to see what the book was like before I watched the movie. So it's got a rating of M15+ for me because of there is a lot of content in this that you do need a mature mind. It is a very, very disturbing book in my opinion. Like, there's a lot of stuff in it that just made me think that the people, or some of the characters in this, were really, really, really twisted and needed some huge major help. Same with the movie. The movie was actually pretty well in sync with the book, which was pretty good. Usually you don't get that. The movie was actually really well done to go with the book and how it played out. I will admit, some of the characters in the movie, I didn't picture them playing that role when I was reading the book, but they did play the role really well and they did stick really well with the book and how it progressed. So my overall feeling on this book is pretty messed up. I can't say why because it gives away everything, but I found this to be very messed up in the ways that things progressed and how things came out and all that. More so from one character, and it was really shocking and, like I said, disturbed. My favourite character in this is Go, which is the main character, Nick's twin sister. She's a lovely lady. She tries to always be there for her twin and be the support, and yeah, she's like really, really lovely, even though she's one of those background characters of things. Would I read more from this author? I'm not overly sure. I know there is, I think, 2 more other books he wrote. I am going to try and have a look at them and see if they will be on the level that I might read, but there's a possibility that I won't read them. So recommend. So who I'd recommend this to is more people who love crime, mystery, who also can handle a bit disturbing parts in books, parts that you sit there and go, what the hell, when reading it. But yeah, mostly just crime and mystery people, because that's what the book is about. Right, so the next book is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, which I should have remembered that because she's one of my favourite authors ever. So as you can tell, when it comes to the part on my list where it says author and would I read more from, yes, I plan on trying to read every book from this author because I love her writing. The story, so the City of Ghosts story, got 4 stars for me. Mostly because I feel it was more for a teen audience over me who's old. It is enjoyable, but you know, I'm pretty sure I would have loved this and been so obsessed with it if I was a younger audience, which I'm pretty sure is actually what the book is targeted at, is a younger audience. I'm very sure it is targeted at a younger audience. My favourite character is Jacob, the ghost, because he's funny and amazing and a scaredy cat, which is hilarious. Every time I read a part from him, I think of Shaggy and Scooby out of Scooby-Doo. But he's pretty cool. The rating is PG, because like I said, I'm like, my oldest daughter is 9. I'd let her read this and have no issues with it, just because there was nothing in this that was overly scary. Like, it did have surprising little parts, but they weren't scary. So I would highly let her read this book. I actually am. She's been given permission to read this book, which is surprising because I usually tell her to leave my Victoria Schwab books alone. Overall, it's an interesting book and a very well written story. I would like to read the second one, even if it isn't for my age group, which, like I said, is making me feel old saying that these books aren't my age group. But anyway, and yes, I would read the author. I'd recommend this book to anyone. It is a lovely little story, and it does have some shocking moments in it, which I won't go into because obviously you read the story. But it is a really amazing book to read, and I'm pretty sure that if I'd read this when I was like 10, 13 or something like that, I'm pretty sure it probably would have knocked Harry Potter off of my favourites list. And I'm not joking, it probably would have knocked Harry Potter off my favourites list. Right, so the next one is going to be 2 books because I decided to throw these 2 together instead of doing them separate. So the first one is A Court of Thorns and Roses, and the next one is A Court of Mist and Fury. Obviously both from the same author because they're 1 and 2 in a series. Sarah J. Maas wrote them. I gave this one 4 stars, and I'm pretty sure I gave this one 4 stars. I gave the covers 4 stars too because they're nice covers, they've got shiny bits and everything else on them. I will admit that my characters changed though. In this book, which is what other people have described as a Beauty and the Beast retelling, it does sit along those lines, yes. My favourite character was Tamlin. I loved just generally anything about him. He was moody, he was grumpy, he was protective, he was a lot of different things, and it was just the way he was. Which made me very angry when I found sneak peeks of what this book was going to do to this book's main story. But after reading this book, I actually fell in love with the way the author had changed everything and the way the author had done it, and I changed my favourite character too. I'm not going to do the fangirl thing and go, right, my favourite character is Rhys, because it's not. My favourite characters are actually Cassian and Azriel. More leaning towards Cassian than Azriel, but they're still sitting about even at the moment. I'm currently reading the third book and they're still sitting even. I love those two characters. Because Cassian's like funny, grumpy, macho, light character, all friendly, and he's got so much he just shows everyone. And then you got Azriel, who's like this quiet, secluded in his own little shadow sort of thing. And they're just like, they're really great characters, and I really love them over the main characters, I guess. Right, so rating is M for both. More so for this one, I'd say 15 plus once you get to this one. This one's not as bad, but it's still an M. This one kind of goes well past, which is funny because I got really annoyed with a video I watched where someone was having a go at adult authors and saying they should stay out of the YA business because all they ever do is put adult things into books. And she was going on and on and on about it, and I was sitting there thinking, but it's YA, so it's young adults, so it's meant to have adult in it. And these were some of the books she mentioned, but I don't see what's wrong with them. They're YA, they're not adult like she was claiming. They can be put under as young adult. And yeah, I'd say, I'd say 15 and up could read this one, but it'd be 18 and up for that one. So my overall is, I really did love this book, but to some aspects it did frustrate me. But that's only because I did a sneak peek and found out that the story changes from what the aspect was in my mind. So it didn't stay favouring the two characters in this. The characters kind of changed, or one character changed over more so than others. I will be reading more from this author. Obviously I'm reading this whole series, so generally reading more books from the author, but I've also got the Throne of Glass series that I want to read. I did start that series with the Throne of Glass, but that one book made me feel like there was too much missing and I ended up not liking it. So now that I've got Assassin's Blade, which I'm pretty sure by what some people have told me is meant to be the book before the Throne of Glass book, it might answer some questions before I go into Throne of Glass, and I might enjoy the book series a lot better. So who would I recommend these to? I'd recommend these books to people who enjoy books about the Fae. This would make a good introduction into the Fae world for a lot of people too, because it does give some of the history and all that, as well as twisting it a bit for this author and making it her own, which was something I actually really did love. The aspect of her turning around and using Fae history from previous Fae stories and all that, and then throwing her own spin on it and her own aspect. It was like really, really, really well done, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I'm really, really, really enjoying this series in general at the moment, and I kind of binge read this one. It's like a lot bigger than this one, but I managed to binge read this one in a day and a half, and it's got like 617 pages at the moment, 620 pages in it. So I think I did really well with reading it in a day and a half, just because I wanted to see how the story goes and progressed, and part of me wanted to see if Fryer kicked the living hell out of Rhys, just because I thought he deserved it at some stages. But their banter and all that was really lovely, even though they're not my favourite characters. They're the main characters, but they're not my favourite. So that's the first part of this catch-up, and I'll be doing the other 7 books in the next video. Bye!